So this is our evening read and our evening thinking. We're thinking about the housing situation and actually living in your car or sleeping in your car. I've noticed that there's some distinct opinions. Folks who are like, no one helped me when I was desperate, so F them, flush them, fly them away. And so there's low compassion and a pretty self-centered perspective. So I called that the cold-hearted stranger. And we have the exhausted savior who's probably a little bit too empathetic. They have a lot of compassion. And seeing all that struggle breaks their heart. You see someone out there, you're like, what can I do about that? And it becomes exhausting. So I figured there must be more to this picture than those two perspectives. So I created this 9 grid where we have folks who are in their own personal perspective. Like you could be negative, say F them. You could be like, well, I can't do anything about that, so you ignore them. Or you can be active and compassionate and you can try to save them. Now let's look at how that might scale to a gang of bullies, a crowd of bystanders, or what I like to call the hardcore. Folks who are out there, food not bombs, like the faith-based organizations, folks who are just getting together, mutual aid. And what kind of societies that does that lead us to? Dante's Inferno of just like, burn it all down. No one cares for each other. It's dog eat dog or man bite dog. Or, well, I'm comfortable. I'm going to live in my little partition. We're just going to segment the society and not worry about the folks who don't have it as good as us and try to be like the folks who have it better. Or there's unity consciousness. We're all in this together. Um, so that helps with compassion and action from folks who are at different parts of the power spectrum. So that's my brain trying to think through how we think about this. And the other issue that popped up or occurred to me is that allowing people to sleep in their cars is just a band-aid. And so if we apply theory U, which is how you go deeper into kind of what could potentially happen, and go past your initial observations and the way that you frame things into a more open space. I also look at it as like looking for the root cause, and so we could be superficial and treat a symptom of an illness. We can be a little bit more thoughtful and create a whole package of treatments for that individual. And so you get a shower, you get haircuts, you get job training, or you can have a whole journey, end to end, where we're invested in the entire transformational process. So there's a fourth level, which is the mundo. This is micro, meso, macro, and mundo. Mundo is how do we change the world? So are we transitioning through this kind of middle transitional space, like 3D, 4D, 5D? Or is it just a portal to a new reality? So reflections on theory U, applying it and trying to integrate it in my own way of thinking. It's a process. These are my index cards. I'll just share them. These are not direct transcriptions. They're just me trying to process the information and think through my brain what this German man, Otto, has been sharing with us. And check some of my own assumptions and be open to learning, but also working to integrate. So this is my own process. Here's my notes. Thank you, Otto, for putting this book together and sharing your practice. Stoked to be on this journey. What's your practice for learning? Thinking continues. The question I'm having now is how to go from individual solo practice to shared collective practice. As what? As an experience? So here's a checklist of things that we can do to move into action. So we can have a dialogue with somebody. We can go on a walkabout, see things firsthand. We can do, when we come back, a story slam, download what we've seen, workshop it, or even do a startup. So what comes after that? Maybe get hired to do something long term, or you're just in the startup phase. Now, here's a hierarchy of things that matter, that have high value and low value. So opinions, everyone's got an opinion. Yeah, not a lot of weight to that. Experiences definitely give you a little bit more to establish an opinion. And what really matters is the habit of following through. Every day, what do I do? Every day I post and share something new. A little bit more of a mind cast. All right, so here is a starflake. What needs to unfold? How do we go from, or how do we go to, a way of being? Here's a loop. What are we feeling? How's that? Well, so what are we seeing? How's that making us feel? What are we seeing? How's that? What do we think? What we see? What are we saying because we're thinking something? How are we being when we're saying these things? What are we becoming from being this? Because we're feeling this. We're becoming this and we're feeling it. So what is that new thing that we want to become? This is, I guess, for me to think about for scaling. Here I am teaching, trying to teach. What's the lesson? It's not quite clear what the lesson is. Is there a class there? It's not clear that there's a class here. Where's the class? Say hello, class. Is there a whole school with other faculty? Who are the folks I'd be teaching with? Is there a movement? Or is there just a lesson that is looking for... What is the title of this? Presencing. We are trying to presence. What are we presencing? An open mind, an open heart, an open will. Be here now, Maui minds. Give it a label. Keep it unlabeled. Just be. What could it be? Maui Mind Academy? Possibly. Or just a shift. A shift. I'm not quite sure. It's one of those nights. Just like, what are we doing? We're thinking. We're always design thinking. We're thinking. What is my blind spot? Good question. I'll be meditating on that in a moment. Happy to have a dialogue with you and see if we can all collectively get that macroscope, metascope vision. Mahalo.